Welcome friends, enemies, and everyone in between to my channel, The Masked Mormon. I am in fact the Masked Mormon.
Why you wearing a mask? Were you burned by acid or something like that?
Oh no, it's just they're terribly comfortable. I think everyone will be wearing them in the future.
If you are returning, welcome back. But if this is your first time here, I am a Mormon who used to believe in the truth claims of the Mormon Church. I did it all. I was baptized, I went on a mission, I attended BYU, I went to the temple, I was married in the temple, and all the rest of it. I truly used to believe in the claims of Mormonism. Now, I explore some of the implications of Mormon theology, culture, and some of my own personal experiences. And I talk about it on the internet with you fine viewers. Now, I want to thank all of you for watching and commenting on my previous videos, even those of you who disagree with my position. Today's topic is obliquely inspired by the October General Conference that just happened a few weeks ago. I didn't watch it because 10 hours? Damn. I did, however, watch several of the conference summaries put out by Radio Free Mormon and by Nemo. One of the only two women who spoke during the entire conference said something that reminded me of today's topic. President Camille Johnson, the Relief Society General President, was speaking about how Jesus helps relieve people's burdens when they take upon themselves covenants. Covenants in Mormonism are largely made in the temple, though baptism and confirmation are considered to be covenants that people make outside of the temple. And a sign that Mormons have been through the temple for the first time and made these covenants is that they begin wearing garments, the sacred underwear of Mormonism worn by both men and women. President Johnson said, when referring to covenants, quoting the Book of Mormon, quote, "And I will also ease the burdens which are put upon your shoulders, that even you cannot feel them upon your backs." Though this is not what the Book of Mormon is referring to, it did remind me of the burden that garments can be to people in the church, especially for women. A burden on their shoulders and a weight on their back. Or a burden that has to cover their shoulders? Now, talking about garments can be a pretty sensitive topic for Mormons, especially when it comes to critiquing them, which I will be doing a lot today. However, I am not going to be critiquing them in the way that many people do. As I said, they are considered sacred by Mormons, so I will try to critique respectfully. The goal is to try to improve the garment wearing experience for believing members. Garments were introduced by Joseph Smith as he introduced the temple endowment and polygamy. Both women and men wore the same thing. They wore a one-piece undergarment, the sleeves went down to the wrists, and the legs went down to the ankles. The crotch was open because, to be frank, there was really no easy way to completely disrobe to go to the bathroom. Like most things in this era, they looked like they were probably pretty uncomfortable to wear. Over the years, garments evolved into the two-piece undergarments that are used today. I wore them for many years. For a man, it's like wearing a long pair of boxers and a thin t-shirt. There can be a lot of variations in how garments fit. So even with the same sizes, they can be tighter or looser. But generally, the bottoms extend down to the knees. The top has a scoop neck, though there is a variation that has a crew neck. And the sleeves extend to about mid-bicep. But women have an entirely different experience. The top has a shorter cap sleeve and a square neck. There is a little bit more material in the chest to accommodate the bust. The bottoms also generally extend down to the knees, though in the pelvic area, there's not a lot of accommodations made for female anatomy or menstruation. A common issue that women will have with the garment is that during menstruation, they have to wear a regular pair of underwear to hold a pad, especially if she doesn't like using tampons. Wearing an additional layer of clothing can cause discomfort. Also, it isn't uncommon for women to have to deal with issues like infections because the materials that garments are made of don't breathe in ways that promote vaginal health. Up top, even with the shorter cap sleeve of the garments, the nature of women's clothing can still have the garment peek through their sleeves, or the neck of the garment will peek out from under their shirt. Also, for generations, women were given mixed messages as to whether they should wear the garment next to their skin or if they could wear their bra under the garment. And because of variations in bust size, either method could cause issues with how clothes fit, or they wouldn't stay where they were supposed to be. Additionally, because garments don't generally fit well, a lot of women would deal with body image issues because garments could make them feel frumpy or otherwise not feel confident in their bodies. Often the adage is, if you look good, you feel good. But let's face it, women have dealt with a lot of contradictory messaging in general that can affect how they see themselves. Women have tried petitioning the church for better design of garments. And to be fair, there has been some improvement in recent years. But these petitions have fell on largely deaf ears. There's so much institutional inertia that any change is glacial at best. In 2021, the New York Times ran a story featuring Sasha Pitton's experiences with garments, especially garments causing rashes and having other vaginal health issues. She implored to church leadership, quote, "My vagina needs to breathe." Women have aired their frustrations that garments have itchy hems, seams that bunch, and waistbands that pinch. Additionally, many women have complained about chronic yeast infections that are caused by non-breathing fabrics. This is due to many of the fabrics that the garments are made of being synthetic. A Utah-based gynecologist and church member, Dr. Kelly Woodfield, said, quote, that if you're trying to optimize someone's gynecologic health, synthetic fabrics are not recommended. The cotton options are more breathable, but are often tight and significantly thicker. End quote. Women will often talk to each other about their garments, giving hacks to prevent discomfort, dealing with yeast infections and urinary tract infections. Some women defending them as they are, saying that garments are a reminder of their covenants and bring them closer to Jesus. But there is often a discomfort in approaching male leaders to discuss topics that involve bodily fluids, infections, and issues surrounding sexual intimacy. People in this hierarchical, man-led religion can be scared, to be honest. When at once the garment is to symbolize a spiritual connection to God, and at the same time causes physical discomfort, health issues, and body image issues, this can be a fraught topic for believing women to try to approach. In recent years, there have been improvements, but according to many women, there is so much more that needs to be done to improve the temple garment. In past years, the Church Handbook of Instructions, the church's corporate guidebook on how to run everything in the church, held the following statement that was to be read to members during their temple recommend interviews. Quote, "It is expected that members will wear the garment both night and day, according to the covenants made in the temple. Members should not adjust the garment to wear it or wear it contrary to instructions in order to accommodate different styles of clothing. Even when such clothing may be generally accepted, the garment should not be removed either entirely or partially to work in the yard or for other activities that can reasonably be done with the garment worn properly beneath the clothing." End quote. This was always interpreted as garments are to be worn at all times, except for things like swimming, showers, or sex. Well, some Mormons would take things to the next level, like Apostle Mark E. Peterson bragging that he had never seen his wife naked. Or others would shower while holding a portion of the garment just outside. There are lots of other stories about extreme garment wearing by especially devout and exacting Mormons. List some of the stories that you've heard down in the comments. Now the Church Handbook of Instructions just says to ask if members wear the garment throughout their lives, leaving the interpretation up to the individual member. However, the cultural expectation still exists, and women are still seeking relief from these poorly designed undergarments. There have been times when women have directly petitioned leaders for help. Afton Parker, an active, garment-endowed woman who lived in Uganda and Thailand, had conversations with other women and realized she was not alone in feeling that garments felt especially stifling in hot climates. It wasn't uncommon for women to be suffering from rashes and infections. So she approached several church leaders, until a church designer finally agreed to meet with her. She showed him 34 slides that explained garments' many problems for women. She was disheartened when the men she presented to said, quote, "You're talking about pads and gore," implying that such topics were inappropriate when discussing sacred matters. The church demands its members wear these special underwear, but rebuff anyone who dares to criticize or offer suggestions to make them better. It sounds like those in charge don't want to talk about things that make them uncomfortable because ewy, icky girl parts make them feel funny when talking about them. Now look, if you are uncomfortable talking about the realities of reproductive health, you may not be mature enough to be in relationships where this sort of thing happens. Even if you are an octogenarian, or whatever age, man in charge of designing garments. So, since women don't seem to be allowed to talk about their needs with the men in charge, maybe it takes the voice of a man to actually move the needle a little. Now, I am of course joking here, but that doesn't turn me off from talking about it. These issues don't only affect women, but can also be important to the men in their lives. How garments affected my wife, the mass mistress, definitely affected her view of herself and our relationship. So, if the church wants to be in the underwear business, what are some things that they can improve, especially for women who want to wear the garment? Let's help the church redesign the garment to make life better for the women who choose to wear them. Now, some of the common complaints concern things like bunching, some of the fabrics that provide enough coverage but are not form-fitting end up showing wrinkles and they end up bunching up. They might require tugging and tucking and adjusting throughout the day to help keep them in place. The church has provided some styles that can help with this, like the Caranessa garments, but they are not very good for hot and humid climates. Women have reported that the length of the legs in the bottoms have been increasing, sometimes being longer than their husbands. Related to length, many women will have issues with the waistband going all the way up to their bra line, or their issues with sizing from the shoulder to the bust, or being too much fabric in the bust itself. Many women have said that the shoulders don't stay in place, and they will slip off or become visible if the clothing has a shorter sleeve. Other times, they will report tightness under the arms. Now this could easily be resolved by just getting rid of the cap sleeve entirely and using a tank top or camisole with an adjustable strap, kind of like a bra strap. This can resolve several issues associated with variations in torso length and bust size. It's not really rocket science. Speaking of sizing, garments are notorious for not being consistent in the sizing. Even between styles, the same numerical sizes are very different. Garments can be up to 4 sizes larger than what a woman would actually wear in regular clothing, and you generally cannot try them on first without purchasing them. So, a woman could end up with several sets of garments that end up not even fitting them. Rashes and infections are common in women who wear garments. The reason this occurs is that the fabrics don't breathe sufficiently. Doctors will recommend that a woman who is suffering from a yeast infection to not wear underwear at night, and then during the day to wear cotton panel underwear that can breathe well. The problem is that even with cotton garments, The long legs of the garments add layers that bunch up in the crotch area, accumulating moisture that leads to recurring infections. Now, more information and leeway could be given to women to take care of their own bodies instead of being guilted into wearing them while dealing with suboptimal vaginal health. Now, something that women of reproductive age experience once a month is menstruation. Aunt Flo comes to visit, and this is something that has happened since, I don't know, forever. It isn't like it's a surprise, but garments are hilariously not equipped to deal with this common event that occurs in half the population. If a woman wants to wear a pad or panty liner, the garment cannot hold this piece of feminine hygiene product in place. Because of the legs of the garment, the crotch isn't snug enough to hold these in place. Now, this can result in leakages that can stain clothing and cause embarrassment. So, women will wear an additional pair of regular underwear under their garments while menstruating. But this is an added layer that can add to discomfort, especially when dealing with things like bloating. Guidance could be given and trust could be extended for women to not wear at least their garment bottoms while menstruating, or at other impractical times. Somewhat related to menstruation problems and infections are rashes from seams and elastic that cut into their skin and hold damp fabric against the skin. A simple solution is providing wider waistbands, again, similar to real underwear. So many of these problems have been solved by the underwear industry. Like I said, again, it really isn't rocket science. Rashes, infections, and the rest can be caused by fabrics that don't breathe. The synthetic fabrics that are used don't wick moisture away from the skin and aren't well suited to hot or humid climates. Again, problems that have been solved by the underwear industry. Additionally, there can be issues with body image. Adding layers to the stomach or thighs below clothing can trigger body image problems. Sometimes depression or eating disorders can be exacerbated when a woman begins wearing garments. They can also complicate clothing selection. Clothes that provide adequate coverage and modesty may still be incompatible with garments. It can be hard for a woman to find things that help her feel confident and attractive. Often, a woman will say that she feels frumpy because of garments. Now, this can lead to issues with arousal and sexual intimacy. Garments can cause a woman's confidence to suffer because it's harder to dress in a way to flatter her figure. It can be hard getting into the mood when they're always completely covered in something that does not flatter them. This knocked down confidence can then start down a spiral that affects all aspects of a couple's relationship with each other. Though garments can be a sacred reminder of a person's temple covenants, that doesn't mean that the church is competent at designing clothing that works for different body types, climates, and differing phases of life. Now, women's underwear can be a very complex issue for all the reasons I've listed before. All you really have to do is go to any store and see how expansive the women's underwear section is compared to the men's. The church should either get out of the underwear business entirely, letting people provide their own sacred undergarments, or actually get into it by hiring professional underwear designers. The church could provide iron-on markings so people could essentially make their own sacred undergarments. Or they could design garments with more variations that solve the issues that we've been talking about. Now let's get a little bit more specific on some of these changes. Now, I spoke in some generalities and gave some possible solutions to some of the problems that women have with garments. If the church wants to provide quality undergarments that not only remind believing members of their temple covenants, but are also functional and hygienic, they could take some of these suggestions. So, if anyone from the Strengthening Church Members Committee is watching, please take some notes. Now, the first suggestion is to keep garments the way they are. Just have members wear them to the temple, and maybe on Sundays to church. The rest of the time, members wear regular underwear. The garments then become more a part of the ceremonial garb that is worn in the temple, and when members are functioning in an official church capacity, like when they are performing their callings. They could don the garments as a means of physical and spiritual preparation as they participate in the ordinances and administration of priesthood activities. The church has started to adopt the teaching that even women exercise priesthood authority when they're performing their callings. A Relief Society president is set apart by a priesthood office holder and given authority to perform her calling. And in the church, so the teaching goes, everything is done by the priesthood. So, like a priest dons a collar or a Jew dons a yarmulke, a Mormon could don his or her special ceremonial underwear. This would solve a lot of the problems associated with health and infection concerns because they would only be worn for a few hours at a time. It would also solve some of the quality issues. Garments don't last long, and members have to replace them fairly often as they wear out and fade. This would extend their life, and the church wouldn't have to improve the quality of the materials or of their construction. The second suggestion is for the church to get out of the underwear business entirely, and instead of selling garments to its members, the church could provide guidance either on making their own, if they so desire, or they could provide the various markings that are placed on the garments for the members to sew or iron onto their own underwear. A special undershirt or even bra could have the garment markings sewn or ironed onto them. The same with a pair of underwear of the person's choosing. Garments have already changed quite a bit since Joseph Smith introduced them, changing from the one-piece, ankle-to-wrist piece of clothing to the short-sleeved, short-legged two-piece that are common now. But someone might say, especially concerning the mark that's supposed to be over the right knee, signifying that every knee will bow and tongue confess that Jesus is the Christ, is supposed to be over the knee. Well, for those of you who used to wear or currently wear garments, how often is that mark actually over your knee? Mine seldom was. The legs of my garments would either ride up, or because my legs are so muscular, they would have a hard time reaching the knee anyway. Besides, the church is moving more towards symbolic interpretations of things anyway. The washing and anointing in the temple is now done symbolically by placing a drop of oil and water on the head of the participant, instead of actually washing them like was done originally, or by touching the various parts of the body with a wetted and oiled finger, like what happened when I went through the temple. This mark could easily be placed on the right thigh of the pair of underwear. Since the church seems to be trying to save money more these days for, whatever reason, and having members do things themselves like clean the buildings and the temples, the church could easily provide iron-on or sewn-in markings at a significantly cheaper price than garments currently cost. The third suggestion is for if the church actually wants to provide quality and functioning ceremonial underwear that not only hold the symbolism that they want to, but also help maintain the health and comfort of the wearers. Now let's start with the garment top. Now, like I said before, some of the common issues women have with the garment top is that the cap sleeve can peek out from under their shirt sleeve, and that the square neck can show even if they are wearing what a Mormon woman would consider a modest shirt. There can be some pinching under the arm, and the differences between bust sizes and torso lengths can make it difficult to find a fit that stays where it is supposed to. The solution is something like a tank top or camisole. Many women already wear layers that involve a similar type of undershirt. The shoulder straps can be adjustable for different body types, and because the straps are thinner, a woman doesn't have to worry about them peeking out from under her outer shirt. The neck can also be situated so that it doesn't interfere with the overclothes. Also, because there's no sleeves, there is nothing to pinch at the underarm. It can be thin and breathable for hot and humid climates, and it would minimize the number of layers that she would be wearing, also aiding in the comfort, even with a bra, which would of course be underneath the new garment top, if she so chose to wear one. The garment markings could easily be in the same places that they currently are, and they would be silk screened, like the church is already doing with garment markings now. The old embroidered markings could show through a shirt, leading to some embarrassment. Again, there is no reason that a garment top couldn't be a tank top or camisole. Garments have already changed as it is. Now, proceeding to the garment bottom. There needs to be a bit more consideration and care given to this part of the garment. There is a complex ecosystem associated with the vulva and vagina. Not enough ventilation or a buildup of moisture can lead to infections, discomfort, and embarrassment. What's more is that during a woman's childbearing years, her monthly cycle needs to be considered. Now, it does help to understand how real underwear are designed to accomplish some of these goals. The first thing is that underwear are made of breathable materials. Of course, there are exceptions with the lacy underwear or lingerie, but these aren't designed for everyday wear. They are made to be tantalizing and fun. Nylon and polyester don't offer much breathability. Cotton or breathable synthetic materials are usually used. Now, have you ever wondered why women's underwear sometimes have a little pocket in the front? No, it isn't an actual pocket for storing your feminine hygiene products, though I guess you could. No, it isn't a pocket at all. It's called a panty gusset. A panty gusset is an extra layer of fabric that is used to reinforce the underwear in the crotch area. This helps to extend the life of the underwear. It helps to catch the sweat and whatnot to help keep your kitty cool and dry as you go about your day. It also helps to act as a buffer to prevent any discharge from leaking through your underwear and staining your clothes. Now, even if your underwear are made of synthetic materials, the gusset will be made of something that's breathable, that's situated right next to your body. Now, this helps reduce the risk of developing skin irritations and infections. This can also help make the underwear more comfortable, preventing any of the seams from rubbing up against your lady parts. Generally, panty gussets are sewn closed at both ends, making a second layer of fabric that lays flush with the rest of the underwear. However, some manufacturers, in order to save a little money, will leave the front seam open, forming what seems like a little pocket. This can make the underwear a little more affordable. But ultimately, it doesn't matter if the gusset is fully closed or not. Having said that, it is apparent by looking at these examples of garments from the church's website that there is no panty gusset at all. Some may appear to have one, but it isn't really clear at all. So the first thing to do would be to add a panty gusset to all women's garments, something out of cotton. The next thing would be to add some features that can help with menstruation. Because these have longer legs, using a pad is impossible. And sure, she could wear a pair of panties under the garments when she is on her period, but we are trying to get away from that, remember? Perhaps a couple of slits could be sewn into the garments in the crotch area that would allow wings of a panty liner to pass through. Any seams would, of course, be away from the body, blocked by the panty gusset. Like the garment top, there is nothing that says that the legs have to be as long as they are. No, they could be shortened, perhaps a boy short style. The knee mark could still be placed on the right thigh, and it would maintain its symbolic significance. Again, if you can change the ordinances in the temple, you can change the style of the garments. Also, a wider band could be implemented so that the new garment bottom doesn't cut into the woman's abdomen and cause discomfort. So, those are my thoughts. I have never worn women's underwear. However, I do appreciate them and what they protect. I am sure that there are other features that could be incorporated into garments to bring them up to date with current underwear technology. Perhaps this could also help them appear more attractive. Couples sometimes refer to them as passion killers. Garments in their current form can separate someone from feeling comfortable in their own body. A positive body image helps in other aspects of a person's life. It can help motivate someone to become or to stay fit, or to enjoy how they feel in their clothes and skin. Feel confident in how others or their partner see them, and otherwise be a self-esteem boost. In the temple, when Michael and Jehovah finish creating the world, they comment on how glorious and beautiful it is. Shouldn't someone feel the same way about their own body? Or at the very least, not have the church's uncomfortable and unflattering undergarments contributing to how poorly someone feels about themselves? What are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments. And if you like what I do, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.